Welcome back, Spurs fans, to the Scott Hepler Football Channel. Got a big match coming up. A must get 3 points. If you enjoy the video, please hit the like button. Let's have a conversation. Make comments down in the comments section about the topic that we're talking about today, which is going to be our preview ponderings. And then to support the channel, subscribe. I appreciate it. And with that all being said, let's get right into it. We have 12 matches left in this season to do what we're going to do, and whatever that is going to be. We've got back-to-back wins now. That's good. One very convincing. One kind of scares you whether we're, still not out of that funk of the previous 7-8 matches. So definitely a lot of writing on this Crystal Palace game. Crystal Palace is always a tough game for us too. I still think we're not in that top 4 talk. I think we're still just looking at that 5th spot. A lot's going to happen with what happens with the Crystal Palace match and what happens with the teams above us. After this Crystal Palace match, I think we'll have a better idea what we're really fighting for, if it's 5th or is it 4th or 3rd. You can even bring Leicester back into the mix, I think, because they've kind of let down on a few points here recently. So they're not flying as well as they were just a short time ago. But and I'm going to do, after this match, after this Crystal Palace match, I'm going to go through the rest of the season and compare the teams above us and the Spurs and see what our likelihood of actually pushing into the 5th or 4th or above spot is. So that's something I'm going to do after this Crystal Palace match, because I want to get a good handle on where we're at now, where we're at this point, and that'll leave us 11 matches left, a total of 33 points available after the Crystal Palace match. So as far as injuries, Jose mentioned Lo Celso may actually have an opportunity to be on the bench. I would prefer to not rush him back. I think he's a cog that we've been missing in our wheelhouse, and to help this machine go. And I'd rather get him back, get him healthy, and let him just have him there for the finale of the season to run out the rest of the season and put us into whatever we're going to do. Whether, Europa, Premier League, whatever success we're going to have, I think he's going to be a big part of it. So let's not get him rushing back to where he regresses and has re-injures something. As far as Crystal Palace, they have quite a few injuries, but the big thing is for them, they got Zaha back, and so that's huge. Of course, everyone comes back when they're playing the Spurs. Why not? It's the Spurs. Why not come back with your best players against the Spurs? So they get Zaha back, big boost for them. So it's going to really bolster their attack, which, they've got a pretty decent attack, especially the way they play. So we're going to get right into the ponder upon this. I know I usually do that towards the end of the video, but I feel like this is a good one to throw out here right away. So which team do you think, Crystal Palace or Dynamo Zagreb, should Jose play his strongest team against? And that's for everyone to answer. I've got my thoughts. We'll talk about them here as we go through, and then it also talk about them probably in the predicted ponderings, where we go through the lineup in another video that I'll be putting out a little bit later. So, but let me know what you all think. Which team do you think we should put out our strongest team against? Either Crystal Palace or Dynamo Zagreb. You can't do it on both. We've been putting out our strongest team for the last 2 or 3 matches. The guys are starting to, especially the ones that aren't getting off the field, like Abel or someone like that. You could see maybe a little fatigue in Kane or something like that. So let me know what you all think about that. So right now, Spurs are sitting 8th. Crystal Palace is in 13th. Crystal Palace is giving up about a goal and a half per game. So while they can be tough defensively, and for whatever reason we typically have trouble against them, and probably because they're more of a pack it in and counter-attack team. And that's where we have the most troubles when we face those teams. So, they give up a good amount of goals. Their goal differential's in the negatives significantly. But they've actually been on a decent little run here where they've not been just giving up goals left and right. And so something that we also need to look for in Crystal Palace, as I said, they'll probably run a 4-4-2. That's their go-to formation, what they typically run. Eze has been a terror in their midfield for teams. They brought him in this season. He's actually come on very well, being very impactful in that midfield. So it's going to be incumbent on our midfield to be at their best. Because that matchup, I think, in the last match caused some issues for us in being able to be as creative as we normally would. In the last match, we got off to a good start. Within the first 20-25 minutes, we had a goal. But then we just didn't do anything. I mean, we had some opportunities. We didn't put them away. Then here comes Crystal Palace in the 82nd minute, I believe it was, and they get the equalizer. And then it's kind of like the Fulham game. We get out, and then we just kind of relax. And then for the whole rest of the game in the second half, the opposing side is just all over us. And that's what Crystal Palace was for us in the last game when we last played them. And we drew 1-1. So this is definitely going to be a tight game, I believe. But it's kind of like what I keep talking about. For us to be the most successful that we can be, I think we need to get out on the front foot. Whatever lineup he gets out there, whatever Jose puts out, we've got to be balls to the walls for the first 25-30 minutes. We've got to get at least 2 or 3 goals in the first 25, 30, 35 minutes. And that helps bring them out of their shell too. And so that's imperative. If we don't do that, this could be another one of those. We're just going to maybe get a point out of it. Because they're going to be tough. They're pretty tough defensively. And they've shown that. They've got 2 shutouts in a row. So within the last 5 Premier League matches, Spurs have gone 3 wins and 2 losses. Hey, we've actually turned it around a little bit, so it appears. In the last 10 matches, we've collected 13 of 30 points. Still, we're working towards, we're getting some progress, but it's not all there yet. And we've also scored 13 goals and conceded 11 in that last 10 matches. We've also pitched 4 shutouts, so we're doing a little bit better. We're showing a little progress. It's just, can we maintain it? Is it something that's real? Because the previous, before our back-to-back wins, the previous, call it 7-8 matches, that was terrible. We were doing very bad. Many losses. We had a string of 3 losses in a row in the Premier League. I mean, it's just, so to say we've turned the corner, I'm not sure yet. We'll see with this match, just really what we're doing, how we're doing. And because after this, we're going to start having some more difficult matches too. Teams that are up in the top half of the table coming up in the Premier League. As far as Crystal Palace, in their last 5 Premier League matches, they got 1 win, 2 draws, and 2 losses. So not exciting, not sexy, but they're doing enough to stay mid-table without having an issue of falling into regulation. They've scored, they don't score. They've collected 12 out of 30 points in their last 10 matches. So not really that much different than us. We're 13 out of 30. They're 12 out of 30. So if you kind of look at things, we're kind of about working on par on things right now if you compare it in the last 10 matches. As far as goals, they've scored 7 in the last 10 and given up 14. Now, there's something that we have an advantage in. We actually scoring 13, they're scoring 7, we're giving up 11, they're giving up 14. But like I said, in the last few matches, they've pitched back-to-back shutouts against a Man U team that actually has been scoring pretty readily against teams. It was the recent match they had. And so while they're giving up goals, I think in the last 10, I think they're starting to correct that a little bit, because the last 2-3 matches, they're not just giving goals away like they were earlier in that 10-match run. And then they've also pitched 4 shutouts in the last 10. So, it's not like if they give up goals, they're giving a bunch. So if you can score some goals, they're going to give you some goals in one match. It's, if they get you locked down for a match, it's tough. So that's why I say also it's key for us to get out on the front foot in the first 20, 30, 35 minutes. Get a couple goals, not just settle for the one. If we get one, great. There's a stat out there, I can't remember exactly the number, but I think if Jose's team in the Premier League scores first, he wins about 80% of his matches. So that's imperative that we get out on the front foot. And then, so we look at their last 5 matches. They, again, 1 win, 2 draws, 2 losses. If we compare Spurs to those same teams that Crystal Palace had that run against, Spurs were 4-0-1. So 4 wins, no draws, and 1 loss. Now, one of those is Man United way back when we were actually flying high and playing good. So you kind of bear that with a grain of salt. But if you just look at kind of the comparatives, Spurs should win this game. But again, it's Spurs, it's Crystal Palace. It's never an easy game. And if you go back through a long history, at least 10 matches between the last 10 matches between the two, it's usually pretty tight. So, it's going to be a tough game. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where Jose's head is on this, on which team he thinks needs our frontline players, whether it's Crystal Palace or Dynamo Zagreb. You can make the argument that from here on out, you got to play the best players every match, but also you can't. The fatigue factor is going to kick in. We went through that earlier this season where Jose was just using the frontline players the entire time, and he wore guys down. He did. And I think part of that Kane injury, when Kane got hurt, was due to fatigue. And, we had an issue with that last year where Kane got hurt and then he was out for 3 months. The only thing that saved us was COVID. I mean, I hate to say COVID saved us, but because COVID's such a terrible thing. But, if it wasn't for COVID and the break that was enforced on the league, we wouldn't have had Kane for the remainder of the season, really. And that break allowed Kane to heal, get back. Also, we had a lengthy time without Song. And, Jose's management of the team is going to be critical in whatever we're able to accomplish for the remainder of the season. And so, in my opinion, I think we got to go stronger, or pretty strong, with the Crystal Palace match. Feel like we can relax a little bit. I mean, I hate to say it. I don't want to relax in the Zagreb game, but I think that one we can relax a little bit more, put in some people to rest some people there, and then have them on the bench and then bring them in if necessary. But I think the talent level is a little higher with Crystal Palace, the quality, the competitiveness. So I think that's where we got to put our eggs, in that basket. Easter's coming up. Put our eggs in that basket right now, because also if we don't get 3 points here, I think it greatly jeopardizes our potential to get into the top 5. So we're definitely a must get 3 again, and we're pretty much that way throughout the rest of the Premier League. So let me know what you all think, how you think this game's going to come out. I'm predicting a 2-1 Spurs victory. I just don't think we're going to blow them out, and I feel like there's a goal there for them. They gave us all kinds of fits in the air again in the last match. They could have actually won the game with some missed headers that they had towards the end of the match and throughout. So if we don't come out with a strong aerial presence, I think we're going to be in jeopardy of at least giving up one. It's just, and especially since Zaha's back. So that creates some dynamic play for them up front. So I think this is going to be another tight game, just as most of them are. 2-1 Spurs. If we get the 2 early, I think we're going to be okay, as long as we don't just pack it in for 50, 60 minutes, because all that does is give them opportunity after opportunity. So let me know what y'all think. Thanks for joining me. And come on, you Spurs, let's get this 3 points. All right.